Alright, so here's the R18. Remember it ran, and then the spark just disappeared, apparently. So I'm going to put fresh batteries that I know I've checked in it. And I did just test these with the battery checker, and it said they're good. So we'll see if the spark is still yep. The spark is still not functioning. So that means, first things first, we will try tightening up the ground and see if that is loose. And that is right there. So that's a different size. Alright, that seems plenty, actually. Get the plug out of this quick. That way, we won't have compression to work against. So, alright, turn this on. Yep, still nothing. Alright. Well, get the exhaust valve, or exhaust out of here, because the exhaust is on top of the wires for the sensor. So if I need to check the sensor in any way, the muffler will be in the way. Okay. Now, I sincerely doubt that getting that muffler off the wire was the answer, but again, check it. Right now. See if rotating the batteries did anything. Nope. Alright. Now it's time to start pulling the bottom to get this ignition module out. And see what is happening with it. So battery box has one screw in it. It fits in there very precisely. And the ignition module is wedged in place with a bit of double-sided foam tape was wedged in there with it. But all right, now let's all right, and then this is the sensor. Make sure that's plugged firmly in. And throw batteries back in our box one more time. Nope. All right. Now, let's see. Get the boot on the wire and throw the plug in the boot. And the sensor here has 3 connections, and if you short 2 of them, it should cause the module to go off. So and then we'll know if the sensor is any good. Question is, do I have a bit of something that I can cause a short on there with? I have a twisty tie. That is a tiny steel wire inside a plastic sheath. Go. One end. The other end. Unplug the connector entirely, so I've got access to it out here. Okay. There. Got the plug so it's touching the engine. That's on. And this is our sensor. Yep. Okay, so the sensor doesn't seem to be working. There's a lot of extra wire on the outside of it. So we'll tug that down in here, see if by some miracle, plug that back in, that just tugging the wire back through caused whatever. Nope. Sensor is not working. So I either have to go get another sensor from my spare ignition, or maybe see if there's a bad wire on this harness, but that will be the next step. So we'll be back after I get that ignition sensor out of there. Alright, so I figured out how to get the sensor off of here. The sensor is horizontal here, and it's got two screws through tabs on the side of it. They go into this right angle brass bracket, and then that is actually connected to the base with these bolts that also run through the gas fuel tank mount. So by removing this fuel tank mount, and popping those out of there, I can get those screws to come off. I don't know where my... There. Forceps. Okay, now that bracket is loose, which means, yep, the whole fuel tank complete with the carb came off because it's just press fit on the intake with an O-ring here. In fact, this elbow has got two O-rings on it to give a seal to the intake, but also let the whole thing float since it's in a different location. And now should be able to switch that out. And unfortunately, the harness is soldered on both ends, so there's no way to get this out without cutting one end off. So just gonna pick an end and snip, and we'll have to solder this back together when we get to putting it back together. But there's the sensor, and this kink here, because it was folded up underneath the muffler, so I'm gonna pull this harness off and see what it looks like. It may have just gotten the wiring gone bad in here, so I'm considering whether to try rewiring this harness on this sensor and just try the sensor with replaced wiring, but I'll open this up and inspect it first. But for that, I'm going to need to get a razor blade out, and I don't have one of those on my table right now. Oh. And I thought I had tugged on this, but apparently not. This is another sensor in a holder the way that the T26 is, so I guess I should have tugged on that harder. But oh well. And then I didn't need to cut that harness end off, because it would have fit through the hole then, I think. Yep, it fits through the hole with the, since it goes in that bracket. Alright, well, I guess I will put this bracket back in place. I'll still have to test this sensor though. So I'm going to stick this bracket back on and then be back when I have a sensor test in place or come up with. Alright, so we found out that this sensor was in a socket there, and I could have just pulled it out, and it'll fit through that hole, but don't know if it's the sensor went out of place or if it's really bad. So I've wired it back into the harness, and here's the magnet on the flywheel. And yep, that's not doing anything, but when I tap the brown and black wires together, they trigger. So either the sensor is bad or somewhere in this length of wire is a break. So we'll get out the actually, here's the black wire. That worked okay. And the black wire is insulated on this end, so is there no way for me to check this black wire? Must be the sensor's gone bad. I'll have to go dig up another sensor, and then we should be back in business.